Every day you drown in content. 100 years ago, you had your magazines, your books, you had your cinemas, but they were slow and they took time to get to you. And even the flashier stuff was reserved for more special occasions, like going to the theatre. Today, you can go on the YouTube recommended page and in literally 10 minutes, be bombarded with like 100 flashy, entertaining, and potentially life changing videos. Do I say that as a bad thing? No, because it all depends on how you treat it. And a lot of it is pure gold, and we are incredibly lucky to have it. Because just like that, we have access to a whole ocean of, free, high quality media from some of the most interesting and intelligent people out there. This is a gold mine. It's like having the Library of Alexandria in your pocket wherever you go. And that's an understatement, to be honest. And it goes beyond just books. There's newsletters, articles, uh, podcasts, all of the content we consume today. But the question is, are you treating it properly? Are you binging it like a drug just to feel something, just to fry your pleasure receptors and procrastinate from any real meaningful work? I don't blame you if that's the case. It's addictive, it's everywhere. I've fallen prey to overconsumption just as much as you have. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want a sense of progress, which is what this content promises us. And that's where the idea of mindful consumption comes in, which is our relationship to content as a whole. It doesn't have to be this toxic cycle of procrastination and then disappointment in yourself because none of what you consume actually makes a change in your life. You can make practical content stick, and you can learn anything from anywhere. And you can actually enjoy media with some intention behind it and optimism for the future. It changes not only how we learn, which to be fair, we like here, but also our entire relationship to content as a whole. This system has made my digital life so much healthier. And that really is the perfect word to describe it. It's health. And yes, we're all different, but I'm hoping that this can resonate with you and you can understand where it's coming from. I think 2 or 3 years ago, I made a promise to myself, which is actually the foundation of this entire philosophy. I said you are not allowed to consume anything insightful or practical unless you are willing to sit down and take notes on it. This idea stamps out one of the worst things in all our lives: mental masturbation. And you may or may not have heard that term, but I guarantee it has made you suffer at some point. Mental masturbation is false accomplishment. You do something that feels productive, but that's just an illusion. In reality, it wasn't productive and nothing changes. You're the same person with the same mind and the same problems. One of my worst regrets to this day is that I never shared my writing publicly for the longest time. And most of it is on that shelf gathering dust because I was never brave enough to do something with it. I bought courses, I watched writing videos, and I did practice a bit, sure. And it did feel like I was checking off boxes as I went, but nothing really happened because at the end of all of that, I still wasn't writing publicly for people, which was the whole point of it. I wasn't pushing myself to apply that advice by getting the writing out there. And all my progress in the real world didn't exist. There's nothing there. Today, I can, of course, express it through the scripts and the newsletter, but finally, I get to see the fruit of all of the content I consumed. It's no longer pointless because there's no procrastination. Now it can be translated directly into action. Writing is difficult. It's unforgiving, just like any of the hobbies you do. And it makes sense that my past self would want to avoid the real work and steer more towards the easy successes, the ones that feel productive. But will that fulfill you in the long run? Will it create something that you can be proud of, something that gives your life meaning? The first step to a better future is getting rid of this endless content loop. And we do that using this principle. Now, the first thing you'll notice after applying this is that the amount of content you consume will shrink massively. Nowadays, I read no more than 10 to 15 books a year, and I barely watch any YouTube. I don't read that many articles either. And you might think like, whoa, instinctively that's a bad thing. And it's contrary to what you hear generally on YouTube. No one would encourage you to read less after all, but maybe you should. Maybe to increase the quality of your consumption, you inevitably have to decrease the quantity. This rule bans me from binging self-help content without taking any action. And it also stops me from watching educational stuff without making the most of it. But now whatever I do consume is given all of the attention and care it deserves. So how can you put this into motion in your own life? Okay, well, the first thing is when you encounter a piece of content that you want to engage with, I want you to divide it into one of two groups. Is it something purely for entertainment, or does it have some practical or educational element to it? Now, you have to be very clear on this before you even start watching it or reading or whatever. If the content is in the first category, just for entertainment, go for it. It's okay to read or watch something just for pleasure's sake. And I would ignore anyone who says otherwise. Sometimes we need that, and it's good to just be honest with yourself and enjoy it. If it's in the second category, educational or practical, you now have a choice in front of you. Are you ready then and there to sit up straight, turn your mind on, and grab a pencil to take notes? If that's not the case, like say you're about to go to bed or you're rotting away on the sofa, I would hesitate for a second. I would hold it off until later, because in that moment, your brain is telling you to just watch it for some easy entertainment with zero effort on your behalf. And it's an easy trap to fall into because, again, you feel like it's productive, but it's not. This rule is why my watch later list on YouTube has over 2,500 videos in it, and why I've saved like 1,000 more articles to read later. Now, that's kind of mad to be fair, but I do get through them, just very slowly. Would I like to burn through them a bit faster? I mean, yeah, of course, but I'd rather it be slow and intentional rather than fast and shallow. One big exception to this rule is if you're using this content for revision's sake or to supplement your main work. And in that case, it's fair enough. I also don't present this idea to you as if it's the right way, because it's not. It just works for me, and maybe the same is true for you. The next step is to take notes, to really capture what matters. And that is true for everything in the second group, whether it's a video, a book, an article, a podcast, anything. Some people roll their eyes at this and they think, well, isn't that a bit excessive taking notes for even a podcast or something? And to that, I'd say, well, what's the difference between that and a book? We're taught to take book notes, and we take notes in college during lectures, so why is it weird to treat everything else the same way? It's still insightful, it's still practical, still helping us, so it just makes sense. But look, maybe that's not convincing you. So what is the actual reason behind this? When you consume something without taking notes, it's very easy for your mind to just turn off. And you end up getting to the end of the text or the video having remembered nothing. And all your effort there was wasted. For example, I can pretty confidently talk to you about this book, How to Take Smart Notes, because I've written thousands of words on it. And even though it's been months since I last read it, a lot of those ideas have absorbed into my mind really deeply. But I can't say the same for this book, The Winning of the West by Theodore Roosevelt. I never took notes here. I never engaged with the book through writing. And in about 1,000 pages of content, I can remember that Lewis and Clark appeared in it. And that's about it. It's less that my memory disappeared and more that I never had any to begin with. When you put pen to paper, you stop being this passive spectator of the book and you become an active member of the conversation. You judge, you question, you explain, you criticize. You add your own flavor to the conversation, and it's just too powerful not to do. It pisses me off when videos on YouTube offer the theory without any actionable steps. So how can you apply this to your own life? Yeah, you'll notice here that, hang on, they have bearded tit there, but I'm pretty sure that's incorrect. As far as I know, that's not in the tit family, but whatever. Well, first up, let's get a dumb mistake out the way. Now, I can't lie to you, I still do this today, and I really struggle with it. It's like an addiction I just can't put to rest. I take way too many notes, a stupid amount. I've been reading a lot of Greek tragedies recently, and to finish each one took me a few days, but then the note-taking part of it took weeks. I think I ended up with over 10k words for every single one. I don't know if you need to hear this like I do, but you don't have to take notes on everything. Now, in that case, to be fair, I was interested in a lot, but still, it's easy to assume that we have to pull every single point away with us. You don't. You are the master of your own learning. And just because the author of the content thought something was cool or important, it doesn't mean you have to agree. If you finish this video and you think everything I said was drivel, fair play to you. We're all different, and something revolutionary to me might be common sense to you. Instead, capture what genuinely interests you. Cool ideas, practical points that you could apply to your life, and, interesting points of reflection, whether from fiction or non-fiction. I used to put my notes directly into Obsidian, which is my favorite note-taking app. But recently I've enjoyed using a pen and paper to begin with. I find that the slow and manual nature of it really helps you process what you're writing, which is good for memory, of course, but also for actually understanding what you're writing. Also, try to do this in your own words. Of course, you can take quotes, passages, and little snippets, but do add your own voice to the conversation. If you copy everyone else's thoughts word for word, then you are suppressing your own ideas and your own character. And you might end up becoming a clone of everyone else, which is a shame. So if you write for yourself, then you think for yourself. I like to discuss points first. I ask, what does this mean? Why is it important? What can we do with it? Things like that, just to give me a brief overview. And of course, I'll add my own 2 cents. I'll ask, what does this remind me of? What can I add to the story? And do I have any criticism, whether it's good or bad? Recently, I've been reading Aldo Leopold's A Sand County Almanac. It's a nice, cozy, but thoughtful book on conservation and ethics when it comes to ecology. In my notes, you can see I've written a brief overview of the book, just to help me understand the structure. Nothing crazy there. From there, I pluck out quotes and passages that I found interesting. And of course, I explain them to myself and elaborate, but I also add my own perspective on things. For example, here Leopold mentioned that we treat the land as a commodity to be exploited, mainly because of our Abrahamic view towards it. And to that, I agree. But I wanted to counterbalance this point by mentioning stewardship, which is another part of Christian philosophy. That's the belief that we have to look after nature because it's a part of creation. So you can see I made it a conversation, a two-way discussion. There are no rules for what you can or can't write, but ultimately it should serve you and your own interests. So you've seen that engaging with the content as you learn is super valuable. And this is something that Brilliant does really well, who I'm excited to say are sponsoring this video. Brilliant offers a whole bank of interactive lessons in maths, in data analysis, in programming, and a whole bunch of other STEM-oriented areas. What sets Brilliant apart is that it encourages you to learn by doing. You're not sitting there passively clicking through some boring slideshow, but you're really getting stuck in yourself, which, as I said, is the heart of good learning. You solve problems, you test your logic, and you grow your critical thinking, all of which are great for absorbing these ideas deeply. And above all, the lessons are delivered in a fun and visual way, which is exactly what you need if you want to make learning a habit in the long run, even with just a few minutes a day. This course on how technology works was one of the first to catch my eye. And of course, I use a lot of different software and hardware every day, but it's shameful because I don't know how it works. The good news is, after this course, I now know how GPS works, how computer memory does its thing, and how video compression works, which is something I should have been familiar with. To try all that Brilliant has to offer for free for 30 days, click the link in the description. And with that, you'll also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription. So do have a look at that. Why do shipping containers all look the same? It's a bit random, but the answer will help you understand why archiving your notes is so damn important for making them useful in your life. Shipping containers are standardized, meaning, as far as I know, the entire world has accepted this transport unit as common practice. This means when stuff is shipped internationally, every single country knows exactly what to expect at the port, because the dimensions will be the same, the materials the same, and they will open and close in the exact same way. If everyone did their own thing and used whatever container they wanted, it would be a logistical mess. It would be harder and more expensive to trade stuff because everyone's used to something different. This is the power of standardization, and you can exploit it in your own note-taking. It means putting everything in the same place, no matter what it is or where it came from. Before I did this, my notes were scattered everywhere. Some were on my phone, my laptop, my Notion pages, or in these random notebooks lying around. It was a mess with no rhyme or reason. So what's the problem with that? Well, first, it's a pain in the ass to find something when I need it. And second, I can't build on my knowledge if it's in 100 different places. It's just too much to handle. So I put that all behind me and I did a full reset. I switched to a note-taking app, something simple and versatile for all types of writing. And for me, that was Obsidian. Just like the shipping container, your notes here are all standardized. They all have the same basic structure, and of course they're all in the same place. Easy for you. You can write whatever you want, however you want. But because they're all in the same bucket, it's easy for you to compare your notes and to build upon them by creating links and, forming connections. And the best part is these notes are permanent. They don't run away from you. They don't go out one day to collect the milk and never come back, but they stick with you and they serve you for as long as you live. And the more and more notes you add, the more deep and interesting your collection becomes. I write a lot, so I use many of these notes as a foundation for my future work. But it's not just for writers. You can use this to do research. You can use it as a student. You can use it to learn something, to really dive deep into a topic. And I always think of it like a personal assistant. It gives you everything you need to do that. As this collection grows and I add more and more notes to it, I'm giving myself the building blocks for newsletters, for articles, for scripts, and at some point, even books. Most of the writing is already done for me. All I have to do now is arrange it, give it some structure, and of course, make some additions. I know it looks chaotic from the web view, but with some simple organization, it's actually quite approachable, and you'd be surprised. We use tags, folders, and indexes to navigate all the ideas and to find exactly what we need when we need it. If you want to build your own, I'll link to a setup guide I made. Now, forgive me because it's a little bit outdated and I should probably make a new one, but for now it does the job. It is relatively simple, but I warn you, there is a learning curve, especially if you're new to digital note-taking. But that is normal because the world didn't get used to the shipping container overnight. It took ages to get used to. And because it was such a huge overhaul, mistakes were made along the way. And only once we did get used to it, we could see how revolutionary it was. And to me, that's my experience with Obsidian. Big change, lots of struggle and lots of lessons to learn. But once you get used to it, everything changes. There are many more apps than just Obsidian, and I'm sure some are even better. And I should add that you can do this on pen and paper. You can use a card Zettlekasten or even a Commonplace journal. Now, that's a whole world on its own, so I'll link some videos below if you want to get started on that. But point is to do your research and stick to something, because archiving is pointless if you pack up and move all your notes every other month. You'll never make any progress then. The message here is to store and organize everything valuable you pick up, because your ideas will only serve you if you let them. Also, just before the last step, I'd like to let you know that I have a mailing list. It's totally free to sign up with a link down below. It's not spammy at all because I hate that with emails. There you'll find insights on reading, writing, and building an overall happy, healthy, creative life, including a lot of insights not seen on the channel. I think you'll like it, so do check it out. This is the final and most forgotten step in the philosophy of mindful consumption. And I'll admit it's something I'm terrible at too. If you want to retain what you consume, then you have to revisit your notes. I know, it's kind of boring, at least compared to the dopamine rush of doing something new, but it's important. It's easy to get addicted to the collection part of note-taking and then totally neglect the more slow reflection side of it. Just like in school, you can revise ideas, you can edit your notes and see if you missed anything. You can really grow your collection with you rather than just leaving it to expire in the past. Nowadays, instead of always writing new stuff, I try to commit to revisiting old things so I can polish them up and give them a bit more love. It's great for your memory, it's great for discovering new things, and most importantly, it's great for keeping your notes updated and relevant to your current situation. Because sometimes I'll read old stuff and think, what is this shit I'm writing? What am I on about here? And, your mind changes, but your notes don't. They have to be changed. And that's why it's important to keep them up with the times. On another note, don't feel ashamed if you forget stuff you write, because you're not going to remember everything. And that's perfectly normal. A lot of what I wrote in the past has completely left my memory. And if you are deep into the reading and learning sphere here on YouTube, you'll know that that's kind of a taboo thing. It leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you hear the word forget. But it doesn't have to. First of all, if something is easily forgotten, then it probably didn't mean much to you in the first place. So why beat yourself up over it? I finished college last year. I did ecology, and there are some lectures that have stuck with me to this day. I remember their contents because they were interesting and they piqued my curiosity. Other lectures, however, I walked out the door and bang, my memory was voided. The content was boring, so I forgot about it. Oh no, boo-hoo. You're not a memory machine built to store everything. That's the job of your notes. Forgetting stuff is inevitable. Of course, it's not ideal, but at the same time, it's okay because your archive of notes is always there to serve you. If you need it for writing, for research, or just for revision's sake, you can easily revisit it at any time with just your phone or your laptop. That's why on the internet it's often called the second brain. It does the memory job for you so that you are free to think and to reflect and to engage in all the media you consume properly. And that is the philosophy of mindful consumption. We don't need more shallow stuff nowadays. We have enough of it. We have too many shallow people, shallow ideas, shallow relationships. Everything is bad already. And we need more quality, we need more depth, we need more meaning behind our actions. A lot of that is way beyond the scope of this video, of course, but at least I hope mindful consumption can change how you approach media, and it can make your relationship with all of the content we consume a bit healthier, including this very video. As always, I hope this video was useful to you, and my emails are open, so feel free to send me anything there. The comments are open, so if you have any good points or stories or experiences, I'm sure people would love to hear them. It'll be very useful for them. So yeah, feel free to share there, and thank you for watching.